Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steve Woody, and welcome to this AMA for Formation.Fi. It is today the 11th of January 2022. It is 4 p.m. UTC, and I'm joined today by our special guest, Jonathan Han, who will introduce us shortly. We also have Joshua with us, Christoph joining us, and Ravi as well. So what I'm going to do, rather than talking myself, I'm just going to let you know that this will be recorded. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it live, you might well be watching the recording. If so, welcome. Make sure you're in the Discord. You'll see there is a live chat below me that is within the Discord, so anyone is able to type in there if you have any questions. We've taken some questions from the community, from the AMA chat. So if you had the questions that you posed, we've comprised the best ones that we saw within the group, and I'll be presenting those to the team, whilst the team also give you an update of what's been happening this month, what's going to be happening. We have a presentation and some exciting news as well. So without further ado, let me just bring in the team. If I reveal the placeholder. Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Hey guys.
Hey,
Yeah,
Joshua,
hello.
good to see you. Ravi, good to see you. So Christoph will be joining us in just a moment, and so will Jonathan. But we're going to get started. We're not gonna wait for that. So guys, how are you doing? It's been a month, right? How's things?
It's been busy. Obviously, we're going through holidays and people are busy with families and stuff like that. But otherwise, I think we've made a lot of progress internally. Just crazy, sort of juggle multiple things at the same time. But there has been great progress that we have made on the development side.
Amazing. And I don't think you really had much time off, did you? Even though it was the holiday period, from what I understand, the developers have been working pretty much flat out through the whole of Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they pretty much worked through the entire holidays. We had at least between our research team, investment research team, and our dev team, have tri-weekly calls. So it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We kept that going throughout the entire holidays, pretty much. So we never really skipped a beat so far. We're just a lot more cautious because what happened. But yeah, things are looking good.
Nice. So I think the best thing to do before we jump into the AMA, just to get a bit of an idea, are you able to give us a bit of a progress update? I know we've mentioned we've got Jonathan that's going to be joining us today, a new member of the team. Who is he? What is his role? Do you want to give a quick introduction so that the community know?
Yeah, so Jonathan is our really first advisor. So and we, as the project, we have been very cautious about bringing new members. So Jonathan comes from just a huge, accomplished career. He actually worked at Bridgewater Associates, so the birthplace of risk parity. So he has in-depth experience in doing a lot of research, quant-related, the analysis. So he comes from that pedigree. He is a graduate of University of Pennsylvania. So I think he actually went to Wharton School. So he has very strong academic corporate finance background. And prior to joining us as an advisor, by the way, he's not a full-time, but he's an advisor to the project. And he was at DCG, or Digital Currency Group. It's a company that everyone knows has over $25 billion asset under management. Grayscale is one of their main businesses. So Jonathan was the part of their the venture investment side. So he's very well connected in the DeFi. He understands what's really hot, what's not. So he joined us as a internal advisor to advise our research team, but also on the business development side because of his connection that he made at DCG. So we are extremely happy to have him. It took us a couple months to actually get him to sign. So he finally did about a month ago. So it's been really awesome.
Nice. And I've seen the Twitter post already, and I know there's a Medium article. So if anyone's interested,
yes,
you can go and find out a bit more about Jonathan. And hopefully we'll be hearing from him very shortly. Awesome. So before we go, because I know we're going to have a bit of a talk about Alpha today, and we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into Alpha. Before we do that, we were having a bit of a chat off screen about something that's coming up regarding the dark pools. Did you want to just share a little bit about that and what the community can expect? Because it's on the website, they've seen it, people have been talking about it. What can we expect to hear from you in the coming weeks and months regarding the dark pool side of things?
Yeah, so if you guys took the time to read our light paper that was published about 6 months ago, there is a section as part of our triple utility function of our overall the system, and one of which was we called dark pool. And the way we envisioned at the time was as we grow as an ecosystem of DeFi investors, we would attract certain type of very early stage DeFi projects, and then we will offer their tokens that are marked down price. It's sort of like, imagine a sort of a launch pads out there. They provide a certain type of tokens that are hugely discounted price, so that everyone makes money to participate. So it's a similar concept, except we don't want to have too many projects, but we will only have just a few. So we have been working very hard to identify a few projects, and we have about 2 projects in the pipeline. I will not be able to disclose what those projects are yet. We will do that, but we have been in putting this discussion with the project. And so we would be able to launch those 2 projects possibly in the first half of 2022. Now, there will be certain conditions that will be imposed if you want to participate. And this will be all.
Joshua, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Your signal seems to be cutting out a little bit there. Just whilst we wait for Joshua's connection to come back there, guys, I know you can't quite hear him. He did just mention that the dark pool that is coming up is going to be happening at some point before the end of Q2. So it's something that we can expect to see in the first half of this year. Now, look, we all know, and it's very apparent in the past, that deadlines have been a challenge. So rather than giving an exact date and saying this is when it's going to happen, just know that it's something that we can expect during the first half of this year. And when it goes live, we'll be sure to let you know that. I think Josh is going to reconnect. Are you back with us, mate? Can you hear us? You're muted. That's the only thing you'll need to do is just unmute yourself there. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. So just to continue, so some of the conditions would be such that, one, it'll be only offered to our Formation.Fi let's say forum token holders. And we would give a lot more preferential treatment to people who are participating in our early adopters program. That's one. Number 2, who also stake the forum tokens in certain type of swap pools, or even our alpha strategy that we'll be introducing. So for those who participate, and people who met some of those conditions, then we'll be able to get their hands on these tokens. So we will make the announcement as soon as we finalize all the details, and it'll be coming.
Perfect. So just to recap on that, anybody who has form tokens or alpha tokens can participate, but preferential treatment, and I'm assuming a better ROI, will be put towards the people that were in the early adopter program as a reward for those that are incentivized to jump in at the beginning. So it's not locked to the early award program, but it's going to be open to everybody with some better rates available if you're an early adopter. Is that correct?
It is more or less correct. Now, I just want to make sure that the things are a little bit fluid, and there are a lot more fine details that we need to knock out. For example, we are still debating whether to impose certain type of KYC process, and then whether we want to impose some kind of whitelist process. So these are more of a legal regulatory concerns that we are not as familiar, because we're not a full-time launchpad per se. So we're doing this as a way to, let's say, get our community members to excited, make some money. So all the details will be finalized in the next couple of weeks, and then we will let the community know going forward.
Perfect. So just to recap there, from a legal perspective, they're looking at whether they need KYC, because as many of you know, in the crypto space, for a launchpad, you have to be KYC. Well, you have to have KYC registration. KYC means know your customer. It means you have to go through a government verified ID check. And there's different tiers and different levels, from just simply your driving license, or it could be your address and your bank statements, depends on the level. And depending on what Formation.Fi are going to do regarding these incentives, depends on that level of KYC. So they're just looking into that to find out the details, and we'll come back in a couple of weeks on that. Okay, awesome. So I know that it is customary that we're going to go into an AMA. I was really hoping we'd have Christoph joining us. I know he's not been able to connect at the moment. So rather than do the AMA first, because we've got some pressing questions to do with Alpha, to do with V3, to do with the audits, and we will answer those, guys, if you're here for that. But I think beforehand, Ravi, you have a presentation, I believe, something that's going to go a bit more in depth into Alpha. Josh, before we go into that presentation and talk a lot more about Alpha, is there anything you wanted to share before Ravi kind of gives his presentation and talks about that? Is there anything you want to kind of press of this with and mention?
Yeah, maybe I should. So let me just kind of set the stage so that our head of quant research, Ravi, can come in and explain to you guys what the details of Alpha strategy. I mean, there's just a lot that went in, and the people may not appreciate how much technical work that we have done. So the purpose of this kind of section is to let community know that there has been a lot of thought leadership that went in, and in terms of what we want to convey to the community. First of all, this Alpha strategy is not risk parity yet. It is the component of overall risk parity framework that will be progressively launched in the next couple months. So if you read our light paper, we have three main subcomponents that makes risk parity. One is alpha, second is beta, third is gamma. Once you have those three components, then it's how you put them together in a very sort of risk hedging portfolio. That is risk parity. And so that will still take a few months to get there, but the alpha is one of those three. Now, alpha is designed to maximize return. What that means is that it'll care a little bit less about risks. In fact, it'll take more risk in order to maximize the return. So it is risk asset, and it's probably designed for somebody who has above average risk appetite, and they're really going for the moon. But the power of alpha is that when we release it, you have probably about 24 assets inside in two different chains. And we have the system that will automatically rebalance between, let's say, 24, 25 different assets on a day-to-day basis. This has not been done before in DeFi ever. Now, some of you, as I read through what's been said in forum game discussions, some of you think that we're just forking some index code up, existing code, and then slap a brand new, whatever pretty looking front end, and then we call it index. It's absolutely not true. And I would like to give some time for Ravi to explain what that means. But what we have created is very sophisticated. This is not an ordinary, simple DeFi protocol per se. It's what I call commercial grade investment system that does a lot of automating, the automated rebalancing. So that's just one of a few things. Now, in the past couple of weeks, our original design started with certain assumptions, and then as we were developing, market shift, market conditions also have evolved, and then also the technology has evolved. So we're dealing with sort of a moving target. So we had to also innovate from the very original design we had. And one of some interesting innovations that we have is, like, for example, we have sort of an anti-switch kind of minimizing system that was not part of the original design, but because the market was fluctuating so crazily that we decided to add it in there. We also use the NFT technology to provide certain certificate of deposit. Between the time when a staker puts their money in, and then they have to wait a few hours before the whole thing gets actually deployed. There's a bit of a wait time, and so the people would need some kind of proof fund that deposit. In order to create that proof of deposit, we decided to use ERC 721 contract, which is an NFT. So this also wasn't part of our original design. So there's just a whole bunch of stuff that went in. And because we had to deal with a certain enlargement of the scope, things got a little more complex. So I will give a little more time to Ravi to go into the details. But what you'll be hearing is that this alpha that will be released is real, and it has a lot of innovation that has been gone. Ravi?
Perfect, Josh. Thank you. And just to recap, just Ravi, before we go in, chat. I appreciate, chat, that Josh's connection is intimate. There's a lot of weather issues at the moment surrounding connections.
Yes.
We've seen it a lot online. The fact that he's been able to come here and share, regardless of that, it would have been so easy to say, "Look, I can't make it because of the challenging internet conditions." He's still showing up. So whilst I really do appreciate it's hard for you to hear and it's a bit intermittent, please just understand that there's nothing we can do about that. That's just out of our control. So just to recap what's been said there is that risk parity is not alpha. Alpha is a part of risk parity, and you need alpha, beta, and gamma combined to create that risk parity profile. Also, alpha will be more aggressive than the other two strategies. It will be a very aggressive strategy that will give you high returns, but it will also be high risk. So it may not be for everyone's standard. You might want to wait for the other protocols to be released. Now that a lot of the groundwork has been done in alpha, and there's going to be 24 different assets that are rebalanced on a daily basis automatically, so you don't have to do anything. Once that happens, it's going to be a lot easier to use some of that code from alpha and repurpose it into the other platforms, meaning they shouldn't take as long. But we need all three up before we can get that parity that we've been talking about. So just with that said, Ravi, would you like to take over there? And Josh, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you.
Sure.
We will chip in and see if we can buy him a better internet connection for next time. But there's nothing you can do about the weather in those situations. It's just that part of the world, and it's unfortunate that happens sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Josh. I'm just going to share my screen. Just let me know if you guys can see it.
Yep, that's come through perfectly.
Can we see that? All of the screen, the full screen? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. So hello again to the community, and it's great to be talking to you. Again, this presentation, there's quite a few things, but depending on time, let's see what we can cover. These are some things that initially we thought would be good to share. And just to tell you a little bit about these topics. So I spent a number of years before coming to Formation. I spent a number of years working in traditional financial firms like Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup, and so on. So there, my role was actually, most of it was in the sales and trading side, where we were developing models, again, to take advantage of various market situations and to help clients with portfolio management, and also to help them with risk management and so on. And then now we're trying to put all of these, as Josh was saying, and risk parity is a wonderful vehicle to put some of these traditional finance concepts, but again, adapt them to the crypto world and to bring better risk management and better returns. So these are some of the topics, and let's look at them a bit more closely. So first, about risk management. So now this one slide really tells us everything we need to know about risk management, because risk management is like a slow walk on a tightrope. What it means is that, when we are walking on this rope, we cannot go too much on either side. So if we go too much on either side, well, we end up down. So what it also means is that if we take on too much risk, that is, we go too much on one side, again, it's dangerous. And again, but if we don't take any risk at all, then we don't get any returns. So we got to finally balance that. And that's really what our models and our algorithms are really trying to do. And now let's look a little bit more about alpha, right, which is the main thing that that is going to launch soon. So let's see what is really in there. So this will really bring up 3 questions. Again, Steve, if I'm going too fast, or if there are any questions, please feel free to jump in.
No, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of different people in the community. Some some people love the in-depth discussion. Some people need a bit more of a simplified approach. But I think this is perfect because you're catering for both. So please continue.
Sure. Yeah. So there are 3 questions that we really need to answer when we understand alpha. The first one is that what is it that we are doing? Or what is our destination? Why are we doing it? Or why are we going to this particular destination? And that brings up the last question, which is where are we right now in this present journey? So let's try to answer that a little bit here. So somebody said that necessity is the mother of all invention, creation, innovation, but the often forgotten father is frustration. Now, when we try to invest in crypto markets, I'm sure most of us face a lot of frustration. At least I have. So, and one of that is, of course, the assets are very volatile. What it means is that the prices change too fast. And then if we need to go across many different networks, so, to invest in ETH or, Binance, and then there's dozens of others coming up. So it's quite a process, and it's quite, frustrating at times. And then also, as we're trying to do this, then we have to think about gas costs. So every time we need to go and buy or sell an asset to change the composition of our portfolio, then we got to look at gas costs. But then if we try to buy big orders, then we have to look at slippage. So now these are all the things that we are trying to do. So as also Josh was saying earlier, right? So we are diversified already. When alpha is launched, it will already be across 2 assets and more than 24 assets. So if a single person has to go across 2 different networks and buy or sell 20 plus, 24 plus different assets, that's quite an ask. And also the investment research team is looking very closely at assets before they're included. And as we also talked about, our algorithms are taking care of the gas costs. And also they try to minimize slippage. Right? We will see a little bit more later, right? And the other thing is also, let's say our fund is ready, and then suddenly a big whale puts in a lot of money. We want to make sure that all investors are protected, both existing and the new ones. So we manage the amount of money we let into the fund, and we manage the amount of money that goes out of the fund at any time, so that everybody's protected, right? And also, as Josh said, the moment deposits are made, because we are letting in funds in staggered way. So we will use NFTs to give confirmations to our investors. And also the weights or the amount of money we put in each of the asset. So these are all based on observations that we have made on the crypto markets. For example, how volatile the assets are, which is how much do they move around? And do the assets move together, or does one go up and the other one goes down? These sort of a thing. So these are some of the things that that alpha is going to address. These are the 7 things. And again, I'll go into some more detail about this later, but so these are the 7 main things. Now there's many more reasons as well. So these, other than the 7, there's 7 more reasons, and there's probably many more. And the key thing to remember is that we will add more networks. There will, there's just more networks coming up, and there are more networks that we're planning. And also, as Josh and Steve said, all of these lessons will be very easily applicable to beta and gamma and parity and beyond. So, and even the code, a lot of the code can also be reused. So I think the hard part has been done and the foundation has been laid. So with these 3 questions that we had, now there's a few more important questions comes up. So I had some very nice punchy sounding words: slippage, market impact, volatility, all those things. Now, this is the question that I would ask myself before I take on a project or invest in a project? Is all this made up? Is there any real substance behind these words? And more importantly, when we are attempting like some of these things, is this something we can really pull off? I'm sure everybody has these questions. I certainly would have them if I was looking at a project. So let's see how we can answer them. So let's look at that. Okay, I'm going to share a snippet of an internal document. So this is our guiding sort of internal manifesto that we use. So you see, this is a list of all the models and innovations that we are trying to bring in, both in alpha and later for some of the other things later, right? Again, I won't go into each of these, but maybe I'll just mention one or two of these. So you see, these are again all snippets from these documents.
I've read this, by the way. I've seen this document, and I like to consider myself to be intelligent, and this melted my mind. This is a extremely complex document with mathematical formulas which I've only ever seen written on Einstein's wall before. Like, this is, I know you can't share it, and there's a lot of sort of internal secrets within this document, and I'm very grateful that you shared this, but community.
What I will do is I'll just open up the document, just so.
This is
so this is a real document, and it is
this
here.
This document is something else, chat, and I know you can't see it, but I'm just giving you my word. I have seen it, and it is, it blew my mind.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. You make all of us that, you flatter all of us at Formation.Fi, and we are really, putting in a lot of effort to make this happen. So again, these are some of the things. So just one thing, maybe this is something that we're going to introduce very soon. So what are the profit sharing plans that we have for the community? And you see, we have worked it out already. And this is to maximize the profits that we can bring to the community. Again, I don't have this on the slides, but I just thought maybe since Steve mentioned the document, I thought I'll just bring that up. But let's go back and continue here. So again, so these are some of the mechanisms that we have. And and about, Josh, anything you want to add on this, the velocity, the VVV thing, maybe instead of making it just me?
Well, I mean, I don't have too much technical explanations that I could add. I think we released an article that specifically talks about the VVV. Now, I want our audience to understand that this has not been done before. And while he is a professor at a university, he actually published this this particular concept in a Journal of Finance or something equivalent a few years back. So when I first got exposed to this concept, I was actually blown away because I think Ravi sort of thought about this concept in a conventional stock market or equity market. Now, one thing that sets the crypto apart from regular stock market is the speed at which volatility occurs. The velocity of volatility or the price movement in crypto is way, way crazier, if not greater than just the regular stock market. So this concept, I thought, would apply to crypto way, way more relevantly than, let's say, regular stock market. So we brought this concept for the first time into crypto, and this is how we are going to rebalance our weighting ratio across all of the assets. And it'll be done algorithmically based on the formula that Ravi come up with. Ravi, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That was, I think, a great highlight of that. So as Josh was saying, so velocity is change, right? So velocity, as we know, is change in distance when we move and the time. Now what we're trying to do, we know that volatility also changes, which means prices move up and down. So the volatility is also changing. So we capture that and we see that it's much higher in the crypto markets than the stock markets. So we need to be prepared for that. And that is what, so we adjust the volatilities. So which is a measure of risk. And then we use that to decide how much money to put in the assets. So yeah, moving further, I think Josh also mentioned this at the beginning. So slippage is again a big concern, right? If a lot of money comes in, a lot of money goes out. So then, we want to make sure the existing investors don't get affected. But so we let it in slowly. And we're also using some of all the money that we collect and some of whatever fees or whatever that might accrue will be used to make up for these other costs that we have. So all of this is also worked out, and this is also ready. This is ready to go as well. And also the other thing that we have is also gas costs. For example, if we start making very small transactions, then we don't want to pay gas costs for those. And this is definitely a concern on ETH and networks where it's have high gas costs. So what we do in that case is we try to package our orders together so that we don't do too many transactions, too many network transactions, or so that we save on the gas fees. So we are trying to do all these things. Again, other ways of protecting investors so that this is also something that traditional finance has been using it for a long time, but we are bringing it to the crypto markets for the first time. There's a concept called as high watermark. Essentially what it is that, if a person that you invest with has generated a lot of profits for you, right? So you're here, you go up to a higher level, and then let's say the market falls, and then it goes back again. So you don't want to pay him again for taking you back up to a higher level. So this is a way to protect investors. So we have incorporated that here. And I think this is the first time that's being done in the crypto world. And all of this is going to happen algorithmically and automatically. So now this is all like formula, right? But formulas, they need to be coded. So let's see. And we need to have some numbers, right? So let's quickly look at that. So first thing is, we talked about correlation, which is how do assets move together? And we find that assets move quite a lot together, and that is where our weights, and these are all some actual tests that we did. We looked at historical data, and here the names of the assets have been changed because we're going to invest in that, so we don't want to put that here. But these are all actual numbers from actual assets. And we also compared it to many different methods that are being used by existing financial firms in the traditional world. And we find that our methodology actually gives an excess return by looking at this thing in yellow here. So we find that we outperform. That means we give higher returns and the risk tends to be lower. I mean, that's the key point. And we compared a number of different methods to the weighting method that we use, and we find that the returns are higher and the volatility or the risk is lower, which means less up and down movements. And of course, all of this, a lot of this has to go into the smart contracts. So they are ready. And so the smart contracts are ready. We are testing it. These are on the text networks, Rinkby, and it's all coded up, and we are testing it right now. And so to test it, of course, and finally what people will really see, of course, the smart contract is also going to be out there. What people will see is the GUI, which is also ready. So it's connected, and that's also being tested. So that brings us to this most important question. When is a good time to get into dollar farm? And what our algorithm is going to do? It's going to buy low and sell high. So, and it's going to do a lot of other things. So a simple answer is that it's a great time now to be in dollar farm. And so, yeah, I'll stop here and I'll hand it back to Steve.
Thank you ever so much, Ravi. I appreciate that. And guys, in the community, I hope you can appreciate and understand. That's quite a lot of complex formula that you've seen there. Some of it I didn't even understand when I first saw it. I really had to sort of break that down to get a better understanding. There's a lot of work that's gone into the back end of this, and it's you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, of research, testing, retesting, just to be able to say to you, hey, we have this process that we're going to build. Then to be able to build that and to code that and to find the problems and to fix the problems, hopefully you can understand some of the delays within alpha. Look, I'm here for the community as well as the team. I want this to be a success. And yes, there's been times when the team have let us down, and we know that with communication. And yes, there's been times when the community have been unrealistic with their expectations. It goes both ways. I'm just a bridge between the two, trying to keep the peace. But hopefully what you can see now by looking at this presentation, and Ravi, thank you ever so much for doing that, is just some of that complexity that has to then be coded and tested and recoded and retested. And that's based on it all working well. That's not taking into consideration things like exploits and hackers and people who are going to try and abuse this system. And so you need to take into consideration not just what's being built, but also protecting it from other people that are going to try and affect what's being built. So that takes time. At the moment, I know for a fact that the audits are being sort of, after the Christmas period, people like Certic companies, they're rolling out their audits again, but there's just a backlog. There's a massive backlog. And so everything's starting to kind of move again. But these things, like, we've learned our lesson, like Form are not going to, in fact, I think, Josh, with your permission, what I would like to do here is actually put this to the community, because I know, after having talks with the team, I know that version 3, right now, the version 3 farms that you guys are waiting for, I know that they are ready to launch. They could turn them on today. The reason they haven't is because they are waiting for the audits and they are in a queue. So Josh, if it's all right with you, if I have your permission, community, chat, I'm going to put a poll inside Discord. The poll will give you the option. Do you want version 3 to launch now, in its state, without an audit, or do you want it to wait for the audit, which means it may be delayed until Certic can do that? Because a lot of you are crying for the software, and a lot of you for the SaaS, and a lot of you are crying for the audit. So to try and please the community and ask, what do you want? Josh, is that fair to let the community decide whether we launch now or wait for an audit?
I think I would love to try this approach. I mean, like, obviously we want to be a lot more cautious, but for those who are out there who really, really want to try V3, they're going to have to do that at their own risk, but it is available. So if that's what the community wants, we could make that available.
So community, we're going to put that to you. You know what happened in version 2. You know there was an exploit, and you know that was found after the audit, because it was in the last minute changes that were made after the audit. So I ask you now, as a community, what do you want? Are you willing to wait? Are you willing to be patient for the audit before we launch V3? I mean, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me either way. We've waited long enough. What's a little bit longer, personally? But I want you as a community to be heard. And I know this has been a constant feedback loop. When version 3, when alpha, when version 3, when alpha. I know after having a talk with Josh before this meeting, they are very concerned about the length of time that you've had locked assets within the protocol that you've not been able to get out. And they want you to be able to get your assets. So we could open up that, or the team could open up that protocol, give you access to your assets, but without an audit. So you kind of have to make, as a community, you have to make a decision as a community what you want. And we'll do that afterwards, okay? We'll put that in. Parkav, I agree. I personally say wait for the audit, but I don't want to wait this decision, so it's up to you. So let's have a chat with that afterwards. We'll see what you like. But yeah, there's a lot that's been going on. And just to answer a question here, because this is very relevant. Dan says, yeah, this all looks really impressive, guys. But how confident are you from a team point of view that you can pull this off?
Okay, so maybe I could try to answer that question. So I am confident to the extent of putting my own capital at risk and do this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. It's a bit broken, but we can make it out. It's okay. And I'll recap as well. So basically, you've put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. Because in the end, I mean, I wrote the light paper. And as I was writing it, I said, this is what I need, because I'm tired of yield farming. I physically don't have enough time in a day to chase after all these different assets and then rebalance my own portfolio on a day-to-day basis. I just don't have the time, guys. So I need this myself. So when this thing goes out, I'll be the first one to put my own money at risk and see how this thing goes. Now, whether it works or not, there's so many other factors, the market conditions and what have you, that will affect the performance of the thing. So you could only accurately measure over a very long period of time when something actually works or not, right? However, from a technical point of view, we're doing, in my opinion, some really fancy stuff that no other project would do because it's risky and also it's costly. We get to doing this, and if we succeed, I think we as a community, we can make a lot of money doing this because we're basically creating, in my opinion, a automatic sort of these trade execution machine that will execute based on market conditions. So it'll continuously buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high every single day. And you do that over a long period of time, you make money. This is what scalping is all about when you do day trading, right? And some of the scalping is also done by the bots. Now, I'm not saying our strategy is a scalping, but it's something similar. And so the more often you trade, if you do it correctly, you will make money. And so that's what we're trying to do. So again, I mean, in a normal course of corporate finance, hedge funds do not talk their strategy. It is not as something that is led by a community. Hedge fund by nature is not community led. We're trying to do that. It's inherently very difficult process, but if we succeed, I think this is going to be amazing. So just on the experimentation, just on the adventure side, I'm all in, right? I'm putting my money, I'm putting my time, and we're all doing it together. What we ask of you is to work with us and be patient with us because we're doing everything that we can. Of course, we're not going to guarantee the absolute performance in the end. There's always the risk, but somebody has to try this, and we are.
No, I think that's very well said, and yeah, Dan, just to answer your comment that you've just mentioned there, you think it would be a good idea to explain this into maybe a video or a tutorial with every functionality that the app offers. That will happen. We'll make that happen, and I'll speak to the team about helping to create that, so that we can actually go through and give you a guide and some tutorials. So you won't be left in the dark. It won't be a case of, hey, the app's live, off you go. We'll make sure that there's enough resources available for you, easy to understand resources. Because at the end of the day, the complexity that you're looking at right now is what's going on behind the scenes. And a bit like an iceberg, and Josh talked about this last time, 90% of the mass, you don't get to see that. It's not visible. And all you're going to see is the button that says deposit, click, a stake, and everything else will happen for you. You don't have to go and rebalance portfolios. And any of you that are on the Matic network, and I apologize, but you'll know that broke last week as a result of some stuff that we were playing with. And you don't want to be playing with those high gas fees. You don't want to be playing with those delays. If you're trying to move in, and that's without looking at the charts and keeping an eye on what's happening, to have a smart AI algorithm that's going to be able to rebalance this automatically on your behalf has never been done before. And so, yes, there's always going to be some risks. And like you've rightly said, I hope it's not going to be like the last audit. I think all of us hope and pray it's not going to be like the last audit. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. If people are going to try and exploit and cause problems, then we have to deal with that. But in allowing more time, this time, in not rushing this time, the team have assured me that it's allowed them to triple check everything that last time was put out to try and appease the community. And that's why I'm giving you this choice now. Do you like the team are happy, the team are confident, but they just want that kind of rubber stamp from Certic to say it's done. And guys, this brings me to a question that's just been brought up here, is why haven't we seen any of these updates on the Certic website? Is there anything that we can see or track to see the progress of version 3 and alpha from Certic's perspective?
Steve,
Josh,
are you asking me?
Yes, yeah. Or either of you, if you want to answer, Josh, if you can. I mean, is there? I personally don't know the process. So when you upload an audit or you request an audit from Certic, Do they publish anything? Is there anything to be seen, or do they only publish after it's completed? Like, is there a way to track the progress for the community, or do they just have to wait until it's done and released?
Okay, so normally we hand over the code, and these codes are frozen, and then they usually take 5 to 14 days. And during the process, we actually don't get much of indication from these guys. And then we typically have some kind of audit report. Based on that, then we sort of react to it. So I believe during the process, it is not easy for us to receive any kind of indication from them. It's sort of like like you take the exam, you submit it, and the person who's examining the test is going to tell you whether you got an A+ or D- until you get the final the report. So I think that's the process.
Perfect. So is it fair to say, because I know that CertIC do have an audit for Formation.Fi on their website, will these additional audits, will they show up under that once they're published? Is that where we'll find them? Would a community be able to see them once they're live?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just something that I'll have to check in with our team and see whether it can be done. But I suppose it could be possible. Seeing the audit report, and you've seen this for projects. So and when you actually read them, in my opinion, it doesn't give you that much reassurance because it goes into really sort of details, and it may make much sense to a lot of people. But I think we may be able to provide this to the public. Just not. I can tell you with certainty right now.
Perfect. So just one more question on this, and some people have, and I think I know the answer, but I don't want to be the one to actually to answer this. When we are using Alpha, once it is eventually live, will you be staking Bitcoin, Ether, or any major crypto, or how will you mint Alpha tokens, and then will they be used in like an Alpha liquidity pool, like to farm with? How can people prepare themselves when Alpha does go live? What assets do they need to be prepared to get ready to hold to make the most out of this? And hi, Christoph. I believe you've just joined us. Christoph, can you hear us?
Hey, yes, I could hear.
Hey.
I'm sorry for being late.
No, that's all right. We understand. I think this is probably a good question for you to jump in on here. When Alpha goes live, how can people prepare themselves from an asset point of view?
Since their launch, we're just gonna accept stable assets. So it's gonna be USDT, most likely BUSDT as well, for crushing capabilities. As we move forward, we are willing to add more volatile assets such as Ethereum. Not sure about Bitcoin yet, but we've been covering Ethereum. So that's going to be our next target. But sure. As for the launch, it's going to be only stables.
Okay, so stables for the launch, and then the possibility of other cryptos down the line.
Right.
And for Form, are people going to be able to transfer their Form into Alpha? Is that going to be an option as well?
No, but obviously, all the Form holders will be able to take part into in the proceedings from Alpha in terms of the revenue.
Do we see Form as more of a governance token and Alpha as more of a utility token in that sense, giving you access to the?
I mean, well, first of all,
Alpha token is really an LP token. If you, for example, put your assets into Uniswap, then it will give you an LP token. Alpha token is similar to that.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand. Another quick question, just as coming on the chat here.
But let me just add a comment.
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
Steve, and let me emphasize on that. So all the Form holders that are also holding their Alpha LP tokens will be eligible for for having the ability to get the revenue that is coming from Alpha, because Alpha as a protocol is obviously earning money, right? And that is going to be shared among our token holders.
Perfect. So what's basically going to happen is you're going to hold the Alpha token, and based on, I'm assuming, the quantity that you hold
rate
depends on the share you're going to get from that pool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep, that makes perfect sense. And just on that share, on that note, when we look at single staking for Form at the moment, it's currently at 70% APR. Do we know how long we can expect that to stay? And also, where are the rewards coming from? Is that I mean, I know you can find this information out, by the way, but I will ask it. Is it minted tokens or fixed supply? And how long can I expect to reap those rewards from the single stake?
Those are it's a fixed supply, and it's coming from the reward pool. And I think we've been transparent on that since day one.
Yeah, and I think if you go and you do look through the white paper, you can see that. I just saw the question come up, so I wanted to ask it.
Sure.
There's a few questions here that we've pre-vetted through the community. They've been asking throughout the month. So just to go through a couple of these right now. Dan's asked, can you tell us a little bit more about the early adopters whitelist for partnership programs? I know you've mentioned there's two. Do we know, you've mentioned in a couple of weeks, we might be finding out a bit more about the dark pool, but is there anything else that they can learn from this?
Well, it's gonna be, you could kind of treat it like our internal launchpad that is gonna be for our partner projects only, and it's gonna be exclusive for our tier holders, where they're gonna basically be automatically whitelisted for the projects that we work with, for their pre-IDO pre-sale program.
And I think this
that is going to be
exclusively
launched for Formation. That means the projects, and also the projects that we are working, most of them, they're not going to use any other launch pads.
Okay, so we're going
to. But again, we are not. Yes, but again, Form is not a launch pad per se. We are just kind of incubating those partner projects. And we give the option to our token holders to basically participate in their private sale.
Yeah, and
those
really
are very strictly created projects. I do believe Sin One is going to be the first of them. So
yeah, I think because Josh did a really good job of explaining this earlier and saying this is where we're looking at the possibility of, from a legal point of view, KYC and what's involved, to make it so that it's as it happens as quickly as possible, but it's also done in terms of, from a legal point of view, checking over and making sure everything's done. So yeah, guys, I think we just need to wait a little bit longer on that to find out about that, and the team will let us know as soon as it's ready. And I think that goes into the next question, which Liverpool asked, which says, will the early adopters still be awarded? And if so, how and when? And I think I can answer that straight away by saying not until Alpha is released. But guys, do you wanna just mention anything about the people that have been here from sort of the initial IDO and are still sort of holding strong? And any kind of words of encouragement for those that have kind of been here throughout for all of everything that's happened and are still here?
Yeah, well, nothing has changed really since we since our first kind of statement on that. The all the tier holders are gonna get rewarded as soon as Alpha launches. It's not gonna be during the first week, that I could say, because the first week of the Alpha launch is gonna be, well, first of all, we just have to make sure that everybody's onboarded the right way, and the protocol is running the right way, and as long as the thing as the protocol settles, we're gonna basically start rewarding all our tier holders as they were promised from the proceedings of Alpha as well.
Perfect. Another question that come up here by Crypto Chazza says, do we have a new roadmap? Well, I'm going to say now we haven't got a new roadmap at the moment, because we've learned right now that it's better to deploy and to release and then announce. If we make announcements of when we're going to release and then there's delays and expectations aren't met, that leads to a conflict in the community. So I think the team are all in agreement right now that it's better just to get their heads down and to work and to to get things released and then let you know as soon as it's ready. But are there any plans in the future to launch a roadmap back onto the website? Is that something that once the initial alpha state's out, you'll consider looking at again?
I think the sequence of the release of our products are relatively fixed. It's going to be alpha, beta, gamma, and parity, because that's how the parity is constructed. Now, our internal goal is still to meet the overall projected target of releasing everything by, let's say, mid-year 2022. Now, how we get there for each of the sub-product being released, which time frame, that's really, I think we're going to have to release alpha first, see how that goes. If it's all safe, then we're going to take the next step. So we're taking a lot more cautious steps. So we just don't want to overpromise and deliver at this point. So we're just being very cautious.
And I'll add to this community in the fact that, yes, what we'll do, and I'll work with the team to do this, we'll design a new roadmap with all of the key points that we already know, but without dates. And that way it allows the team to be able to do what they need to do. It gives you some vision of where we are, but without that unrealistic and unmatched expectation. Stoneman Pan has asked, do you want to employ more managers, programmers, designers, developers? Is there a way that the community can get involved, and if so, how?
It's a really good question. We would love to. I think where we test our software, it's already very much community involved process. Other areas, we would love to. We are a little short-handed because what we're realizing is that working remote in this pandemic situation has just caused a lot more administrative challenges. And so we are working toward putting more capable general management layer on top, so that we could handle all these inbound kind of inquiries about community getting involved and so on. People make it sound so easy for community to just jump in and help out. That's all good when there's not a lot of money involved. When there's millions of dollars involved and there's too many hands touching this system, I'm not sure that is the best way to safeguard everything. So we are being more conservative, and we want to make sure that we have the proper process in place before we do that. So our intention is very clear, just that how we execute on that. I think that's the question. So right now, at this point, we just want to launch our V3 and then Alpha, see how it goes, and then once we succeed on that, then on that basis, then we're going to start incorporating more community involvements and so forth.
Perfect. So I've got two more questions. I know we're wrapping up on the hour now. One of them from Ben, he says it's pretty common for teams to share their team wallets so that everyone has full transparency. And if the team obviously needs to sell some tokens for some reason, then that can be understood. But it would be definitely good to have transparency. Are the team willing to share their wallets to the community for transparency?
I think it's a difficult question. I mean, I can't speak for the entire team. I have been thinking about we don't know yet. I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, it's sort of like, are you willing to open up a bank account and show all the details of your bank account? And it has to be two-way street. And and like all the community deposits will be fully transparent on the smart contract. And we committed to stick to our emission schedule for team tokens. Now, what I'm now seeing is that there is almost unhealthy level of too much focus on whether we are the world pool. And only way they would prove our whatever worth is to fully be transparent, open kimono, open up everything. I have a little problem with that approach, because if the community is asking for that, then I think also it needs to be two-way street. I think community needs to be also involved in such a way that I think it makes sense for us as well. So like I'm not trying to be difficult, I think, and not even trying to mask or be diplomatic about it. I'm just letting you know what is the harsh truth about dealing with this thing. I don't have an answer for that. All I could say is that we're doing what we can, not stealing, we're not rug pulling. If you think that that's what you're worried about, maybe this is not the place for you. But it is what it is. I mean, like, I'd love to see what goes on everyone's wallet. Do I have the time for that? Probably not. I think my concern is, how do I direct the resources that we have to deliver all the promises? That's my key concern. Like, I think overexposure to everything that we do, what I eat, how I spend my time, money. I mean, it's almost I think it's the level that is in my mind unhealthy. Maybe that's the spirit of crypto. I don't know how long it will last, but I'm speaking my mind.
I think that's fair. And I think at the end of the day, you've come on video today. You're here. You're showing up. I mean, you're doxed. It's not like you're hiding and you're not being present. And people know where you are. They can find you on social media. So it's not like you're hiding and not trying to be here. You're all very established people in your respective fields. And so, okay, I think it's fair to say that any public-facing wallets to do with Form will be public, but team wallets and personal wallets, you can understand the community asking for them to be shared, but right now you're not sure whether that's the best decision, and you'd like some more time to decide yes or no on that, and maybe we can let the community know later. I think that's fair. I don't think, I don't share my personal wallets with everybody. I don't think everybody needs to know that. I understand. And I think it's fair to say that it can be seen both ways. So I understand the community's concern, but the fact that you're here and you've shown up and you're visual and you're doing that, I definitely think, yes, it would answer some questions that have been showing up in Forgan with a lot of the FUD and stuff like that. But I agree also with the team that it's a distraction from what they're focused on. And I think it's fair that we give the team some time to decide whether they do or don't want to. And then we just have to respect their decision at the end of that. I think community, that goes both ways. Okay, one last question, if possible, if we can just answer. Are there any major marketing campaigns planned? I mean, we've obviously been seeing a lot of stuff starting to happen now. We know that we're getting a lot closer, and we know that sort of at the end of this month, we're going to see a lot of releases. Is there anything that you're going to do with Alpha when it goes live to promote it? Are you going to wait for parity before you start a marketing campaign? How are you planning to present this to the outside world, and what does that look like?
Yeah, we have the whole marketing plan constructed. As soon as Alpha goes live, I can assure we're gonna have deploy heavy marketing. And as those who are with us since the beginning, they know we can deliver on that. Obviously, since the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months, we haven't done any marketing activities because it just didn't make sense. We don't want to just pump up the price where there is no product just to make some speculative traders liquidate. So we haven't touched that. So also whatever pump that was going in our token, we had no influence or over that. We are building our product, and aligned with our product, there is going to be a heavy marketing push. We are working with at least 150 different KOLs, media outlets, and some of our media outlets are also our investors and partners. So yeah, we're pretty confident on marketing capabilities and deliverables from that.
And I think we've seen that on Twitter. We've seen a constant flow of new partnerships and new connections that have been sort of trickling in over time. It's not like nothing is happening. It's just right now, nothing's being announced because, like as you've rightly said, it makes no sense when we're in crypto in general is in a downtrend at the moment. So it makes no sense to fight against the tide, so to speak. But what you're saying is when the time is right, there is a plan in place, there is something that will be deployed, and that will be used to gain mass attention.
We also obviously have a huge budget reserved for that. So that's about to happen as soon as the product launches.
Perfect. So is there any final words? Would you like to wrap up? Any last things you'd like to say? I think we've answered all the main questions that were in a group this time. I know there's not been too much from last month's, but it's just been business as usual building. Everyone's very excited. So I think at the moment, as I said, I will check with the community, but people are saying that they're happy to wait for the audit overall, and they want to see that audit. They would like to know the progress of that audit and where it is, and to be kept updated with that, either if they can see it from Certic's website, or if not, that you'll keep them you'll be in constant communication so that they know and they can expect to see a release. And then with Alpha as well, to know when that's likely to go through that same process as the V3 pools. And are they going through together, or are they going through separately? Are they both queued up at the moment? Have you done one first and then the other? How does that look in terms of the audits?
It's very difficult to give any guidance at this point because it's really up to the auditors.
Yeah.
And this has been an industry problem. I mean, there's just too many ideas, too many projects, too many hackings. So the best thing we could do is inform the community, all the status of what is going on at that time. It's just very difficult for us. It's kind of out of our control at this point, but we are trying really hard. And just so you know, each audit is not cheap. It is very capital intensive. So aside from this time, it is very costly exercise. So we are very careful about not wasting our money. Okay. We will keep you posted.
Is it fair to say, and would you do this for me now? Can you give me your word that you will update me with any progress or any changes so that I can inform the community? Is that fair to do?
Yeah, we will try. Yes.
Perfect. So community, anytime we hear anything, I will let you know the moment I hear it. Guys, any closing remarks? Ravi, anything to add or to end the session with?
Yeah, just one thought. I think it kept coming up, about complexity. I think it was Dan who asked, "Are we going to pull this off?" And I think that's a very important thing. Maybe as a parting thought, what I would like to say is we didn't want to take on this complexity because it's just fun. We picked the most essential elements that we thought were absolutely essential, right? And then we simplified it. And then we are still left with it. And then we had to go through iterations. So as Josh said, we cannot be sure it's absolutely going to work, but I think we're doing a lot of testing, and the process is there in place. So the result, we cannot be guaranteed, but I think we have a good process where we are trying to put complexity bit by bit. And we are hoping that if there's one thing that will succeed, it's that process. So I think that's what I want to end with. Yeah.
Perfect. Very nice. Josh, for yourself, any passing thoughts or last comments?
No, I really appreciate everyone's the concern, because if you don't care, then you have no emotions. And I think a lot of these sometimes FUD and the negative reactions, it's because you guys care, and we know that. And on that, I appreciate it, because we come from the same place. We are part of this community with the same mission. We all have different ways of getting this done, and so it hasn't been easy, but we try. So I really appreciate your patience, and we will continue to do our best to really for the product you guys are expecting.
Perfect, thank you. And Christoph, any last thoughts or comments before we end this AMA?
Yeah, well, my closing remark is just we will pull it off, no matter on our road to success. We'll probably we will fail many times on different aspects, because that's just the natural process of how you get things done. But eventually we will pull off everything that was promised, because this is that's our destiny in this, that's our journey in this DeFi space that we promised to deliver, and we are very excited to work on this. Otherwise we would have pivoted or incorporated different mechanics, or or switched up the company's vision, but we are still sticking to it because we are confident that first of all, market needs this kind of solutions, and we want to bring it.
Perfect. I like that. Fail fast and fail forward. So you're going to make mistakes. That's certain, but they're going to make sure that they limit the damage from their mistakes and they move forward as a result. Guys, thank you ever so much for your time. I know you're all busy. I know you've got a lot on. I'm sorry we couldn't get into this, but guys, if you do go over to Twitter, you can check out on the Medium article as well. It's been published already. It was published earlier today. Also, just to let you know that for the Christmas rewards, the remaining wallets that I need to send the funds out to, that's on me. That's my fault. I've been too busy. I haven't had a moment. I will get that done. And also, the team did actually send me some additional funds. So I can do an airdrop. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure that the people that receive this airdrop are the ones that have not sold. So if you have been with us from whatever point you've been with us, if you've bought Form but never sold it, then you will be eligible for this airdrop. And I will talk to you in Discord to discuss more about that. It's not going to happen immediately. I need some time, but there is some rewards that I'm going to start giving out to the community to say thank you for persevering, for waiting in this bit of a downtrend, just to keep your hopes and spirits alive whilst we wait for alpha and everything to happen. And yeah, towards the end of this month, we can expect to see some great things, and I'm excited. Guys, thank you again to each of you for being here. And
Thank you.
time. And for the community for watching as well, thank you so much. I'll get the recording posted straight away as soon as it's compressed after this ends. Guys, speak to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Bye.